All right, guys. So I've mentioned this before, and I think I said this in reference to Biden's immigration policy. But if I'm Joe Biden, right, at this point in my presidency, I would try to be as far right as possible, right? I would try to be as conservative as possible. I would start governing like a Republican, right? In the middle of a supply chain crisis, an inflation crisis, a lot of which is because we simply don't have the labor force to support the demand for goods and services, because for whatever reason, people just don't want to work anymore. I would be trying my best to incentivize people to not only get back to work, but also I would be not trying to force them out of work with a vaccine mandate. I just wouldn't do it, right? I would just leave it alone at this point, especially considering how this man's approval rating is in the tank. People think this country's headed in the wrong direction. You just lost a major governor race, in which some of the issues there that led to the loss include the mandate, specifically on children. If I was him, I would back off this authoritarian stuff. I would chill out, right? I would just chill. However, the Biden administration and Democrats have no chill, because I think purposely they are now rolling out this vaccine mandate that Biden announced just a month ago or two after this VA election. It's almost as if he knows that this thing is unpopular, but he's rolling it out, and this mandate is kind of putting some burden here on unvaccinated workers, as they may be required to pay for their own COVID-19 test at least once per week. I mean, this guy right here, Biden, claims to be pro-working class, right? Pro for the small guy. But yet, he is essentially putting the burden on unvaccinated workers to pay for their own COVID test at least once a week if they want to continue to work unvaccinated. And there's also other stuff too that is a part of this. But let's actually read more about this and go from there. The Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Public Health Emergency Temporary Standard, which imposes vaccine and testing requirements on private businesses with over 100 employees, forces weighty burdens on unvaccinated workers who choose the testing option. It requires them to wear a mask in almost all social situations and places the burden of testing costs on the individual, as OSHA's rules does not require employers to pay for any costs associated with testing. OSHA released a rule Thursday, weeks after President Biden announced his plan, asking the agency to craft one. The rule requires employers with over 100 employees to maintain a roster of each employee's vaccination status and enforce weekly testing requirements for those who refuse to get the vaccine. The rule, which goes into effect January 4th, involves planned inspections and heavy fines of $14,000 per violation at the start. Now, remember, guys, this is the tame version of what the Democrats want to do, because allegedly the Democrats in their Build Back Better plan, they want to implement even heavier fines on businesses that don't cooperate with the mandate. Now, speaking of cooperation, the Daily Wire is apparently suing Biden over this mandate, and a bunch of other states are also trying to sue Biden over this mandate as well, saying that it is unconstitutional and it is an overreach of authority from the executive branch. But regardless, what we do know is that Biden is trying to follow through with this, and that essentially he wants to run any company out of business that does not comply. The only question is that does OSHA have the resources to actually enforce this, right? Do they have the resources to actually enforce it? Because they will have to do these inspections, and again, that costs money in and of itself. So that's really the only question now outside of the whole legal battle. A senior Biden official added that employers willfully violating a standard will face further penalties significantly higher than a workplace that is not willingly doing so. Employees who refuse to get the shot will be subject to a coronavirus test at least weekly if they are in an office at least once a week or within 7 days before returning to work. If away from the office for over a week, notably the ETS does not place the burden of testing costs on the employer, but the unvaccinated individual. However, OSHA says employers may be required to pay some of the cost of testing because of other laws or bargaining agreements. Nonetheless, the agency itself is not requiring employers to do so. The ETS does not require employers to pay for any costs associated with testing. However, employer payment for testing may be required by other laws, regulations, or collective bargaining agreements or other collectively negotiated agreements. In addition, nothing prohibits employers from voluntarily assuming the costs associated with testing. Additionally, the rule requires employers to force unvaccinated individuals to wear a face covering in virtually all scenarios when indoors or when occupying a vehicle with another person for work purposes, except in certain limited circumstances. Employers must not prevent any employee, regardless of vaccination status, from voluntarily wearing a face covering unless it creates a serious workplace hazard, interfering with the safe operation of equipment. OSHA predicts its coercive mandate will result in approximately 23 million individuals being vaccinated. Mere months ago, the Biden White House explicitly said vaccine mandates were not the role of the federal government. Well, they changed their mind because they're desperate, right? They changed their mind because Biden feels that if everybody is vaccinated, then that can slow down a pandemic, which may make his numbers look better, right? Because remember, he campaigned on the idea that he was going to defeat the pandemic, right? He was going to defeat the virus because Trump was so bad at handling the virus. Now that he's in office, essentially nothing's really changed except the fact that more people are vaccinated. But, you know, he's still trying to tell people and convince people that, hey, this mandate is the right thing to do, and this is going to help defeat the virus in the long run. Now, do we actually know that? I don't, right? But we'll see. What I do know is that in the meantime, this will be challenged, right? Obviously, companies are going to challenge this. There are just some companies that are going to choose not to comply, right? And there's states like Florida that are going to say, hey, businesses can't have mandates, right? And Texas is one of those states as well, too. So I'm wondering how those things are going to mix. And I got a feeling that this is going to lead to a huge legal showdown between states and the federal government in regards to whether or not the federal government has the right to actually implement these type of mandates. Because, again, there are states out there that have explicitly said employers can't have any mandates. So we will see, right? We will see exactly what this leads to. But what we do know here is that the Biden administration, in my opinion, is doubling down on making bad decisions, right? Headed in the wrong direction. I mean, even Mayor-elect Eric Adams of New York City was like, you know what? We might want to revisit this mandate, right? Because when dude got elected, a bunch of protesters showed up to his office, right, about this mandate, okay? And to me, I just don't think it's that popular of a policy. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I just think that if I was Biden in this situation, when you have a global supply chain crisis and inflation, and what's contributed to it is the fact that we literally don't have the workforce to support production, which is driving up prices, because employers have to now raise wages to try to get people to come to jobs, right? Which means that the cost of goods go up. Why would you implement any policy right now that disincentivizes people from either joining the workforce or making people leave the workforce? I just don't get it. I just don't understand what this administration is thinking. They're so gun-ho about, oh, we need to defeat the virus and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, look, here's the thing. Is there any guarantee that if everybody gets vaccinated, that this pandemic is really going to be over? Do we really know that? Right? I don't think we actually really know that. And I think that putting all your eggs in one basket, thinking that this vaccine is going to essentially defeat the pandemic, which it might, who knows? I don't know. It could, I don't know. But I just think that it's not smart to do that at this point, considering that we have this global supply chain crisis and inflation, right? We have issues that are hitting Americans in the wallet, but yet this administration wants to spend trillions more dollars and force people out of the labor force. I mean, it sounds like these are policies that are not going to help at all, right? That's the exact opposite of what they need to be doing right now. But hey, what do I know? We will see what happens. I think there's going to be a huge legal battle around this. We will see how the dynamics play out, specifically in states that make it so you cannot have mandates, right? That forbid mandates. We'll see how it plays out. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.